Hello, my name is Wendy Myers. Welcome to the Myers Detox Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking with my friend Rob Gourley. He has such a profound, incredible invention that he bottled in water that we're going to talk to you about today. And I couldn't be more excited about this podcast because the potential in human health, in reversing disease, in improving energy is just profound. And I experienced he created a water called Wata, W-A-T-T, like Watt, and then A-H-H, so it's Wata. And his website, AquaNew.com, carries this water, and I started drinking it. I could not believe how much better I felt within a couple hours of starting to drink this water. So we're going to be talking to you about what this water is, what's in it, what it does to the body, and how it creates changes in the body by feeding your body electrons, hydrogen, and oxygen. And with all the amazing testimonials that over the thousands of people that have drank his water over the last 12 years, and the testimonials that they have flooded in these people have not been prompted or asked for testimonials. They just emailed in his website. They're all over AquaNew.com. And I even have my brother, his wife has lung cancer. I have her drinking and breathing in the water, nebulizing the water so the gas gets into her lungs. I have my daughter, Winter, on this water. You can feed it to animals. It's fed to champion racehorses. It's just amazing. So we're going to be talking about the importance of electrons in healing the body. We will be talking about how mitochondria scavenge electrons to convert those into the energy molecule of the cells, which is ATP. We'll be talking about the revolutionary gas that releases electrons, oxygen, and hydrogen into the body that's been infused into the Wata, bottled water. And how this water is showing promise in wound care, dementia, chronic fatigue, macular degeneration, infections, and so many health issues of our time. I know so many of you listening to this show are, curious about detoxification and want to know what heavy metals you have, how these heavy metals are impacting my health. And I created a 2-minute quiz that you can take, probably will take less than 2 minutes, to determine your relative level of toxicity in your body. And after you take this quiz at heavymetalsquiz.com, you get a free video series that tell you your relative level of toxins and what to do next, what to do about that. I have an amazing free educational video detox series that you get for free after you take the quiz. So check it out at heavymetalsquiz.com. Our guest today, Rob Gourley, he is the CEO of AquaNew. He is also the CEO of WIT International. We'll talk about what that is in a minute. And LSG Partners, LLC of Sarasota, Florida. And he's also a mechanical engineer. But Rob Gourley is an entrepreneur in the fields of automobile performance, commercial vessel conversion, and mechanical design. He has designed and constructed at least 6 types of WIT machines that produce this gas that's infused into the Wata water. But it's used in many applications in health, beauty, and in renewable energy production. And it is a gas produced by the WIT machine that infuses a gas called Dietary Gas into his Wata water. That's what the WIT machine produces. And he started working on the energy potential of water over 30 years ago while serving as a lead shop mechanic on power systems and heavy machinery in Alaska during the Alaskan Pipeline Construction Project. And you can learn more about Rob Gourley and his Wata water and WIT technology and applications at AquaNew.com. Rob, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you, Wendy, for inviting us. This has been an honor.
So I'm so excited to have you on the show as you're so knowledgeable about how the body works and that you have really created a revolutionary product that we're going to talk about on the show today. And so let's just preface our conversation with, that the number one thing you need in to be healthy and to prevent disease and to feel good and produce enough energy is having healthy mitochondria. So can you tell us how you discovered how to charge up your mitochondria?
Well, it's a long story, but what I've started studying water almost 50 years ago, and realized that there are healing waters and there are waters that are dead waters. And what I realized was that a lot of the science we understand has been a misleading understanding what water actually is. Many of the cultures consider water to be living and have a spirit. I realized this and realized that water has memory and has the ability to do far greater things than most people realized. And what I was able to do was to develop a process to take two water molecules, bond the oxygens back in a diatomic bond with 4 hydrogens. And then I was able to make it stable by adding an additional electron to each hydrogen, which flew in the face of science. And it took me 5 years to teach Harvard and MIT that hydrogen can carry far more than 1 electron. So what we realized was that mitochondria actually creates a form of this as a fuel source. Because if you took a single water molecule and stripped the hydrogens away, you'd leave a nascent oxygen, which would oxidize and kill a cell. So the body got pretty smart and it leaves an O2 behind, not an O1. And so going back and looking at nature and how the body functions, it really enabled me to develop, in my world of science, to figure out how to stabilize this and provide a fuel source for the mitochondria.
Yes. Yeah. And so you created a Dietary Gas.
Correct.
And people can breathe that in, or you also infused it into water into
Mm-hmm.
a water that you call Wata, like WATT. And so can you tell us about those?
Yeah, what we were able to create, which is a healing form of water. In Florida, we have a lot of lightning. And what we realized very quickly here in studying nature was that standard water, the grass doesn't really grow. It won't die, but it doesn't go anywhere. But after a lightning storm, the next day you're out mowing because the grass grew a couple inches overnight. And what I started really looking into was how what is happening here with this water that the lightning had something to do with. That's why the motif on the bottle shows the lightning. And what it's doing is adding electrons.
Yeah.
So I finally figured it out how to do it and make it stable. And we've been able to show over 8 years shelf life and still have the same molecular structure in the water.
Mm.
And so that's where it basically came from.
And so what is the importance of electrons for healing the body? And I think this also is the same concept as, say, grounding the body or swimming in the ocean. You're getting negative ions when you're doing that, which are helping the body to function properly electrically, because we are very much electrical beings. But the Wata goes far beyond just grounding. But why don't we talk about what is the importance of electrons for healing and how does that tie into the Wata?
Well, I mean, we consume electrons every day. We're electrical creatures. Every plant and animal on this planet is an electrically driven machine. And basically what the Wata has the ability to do, because it's infused with an electron-rich gas, it has the ability to donate these electrons. And that enables the body to do numerous things. If the cell voltage drops below a certain level, the cell will actually commit hara-kiri. If it gets to a lot higher level, it'll actually go into dormant stage. And if you go above that, it'll function. but it doesn't have the ability to repair itself or duplicate itself again. And this is by charging the body back up, which is the addition of electrons, that you can actually get cells to repair and heal and keep, us moving ahead in a positive way.
Yeah, and so when you are able to charge up the body, you see this electrical differential for cellular communication, replication, protection of DNA, polarization of the brain, mitochondria being able to produce energy again. And that's why, because of these benefits, you have such unbelievable testimonials about the water. I was just really blown away when I drank, here's the water right here, when I drank a bottle of the water, and I felt high for about 3 or 4 days. I was just, my mind turned on. I felt joy. I wasn't tired. I was really very stimulated. I just was really, really blown away by how I felt from just drinking this water. So can you tell us a little bit about, what the benefits are because this water is kind of charging up the body, feeding negative ions to the body, and how that produces the benefits that we see when people drink it?
Well, one of the biggest things is detoxification, which is obviously your specialty.
Yeah.
Virtually all diseases are inflammation and toxification driven. And the water being of a positive charge, which is very unusual, it's the only positive charge has a positive ORP on it that we've seen on the planet so far. It has the ability to go into the cell instantly, raise systolic pressures, and push out the toxins. And then it also enables it to carry it through the kidneys without damage. We've been able to do massive mercury detoxification and some of the gamma radiation without harming the kidneys. And no one else has been able to do it. And it's all done with the form of a water that has a positive charge that will go into the cell instantly. Even people with lap band surgery can drink our water, but they can't drink regular water because it's a negative charge. It's not absorbed in the cells, sits in the stomach, and then they get in trouble. But ours is virtually instantly absorbed into the cells and will cross the blood-brain barrier, which is why you had the euphoric feeling. It's the first time your brain's probably been properly hydrated in a long time.
Yeah.
And it's not done with caffeine. I mean, one of the tricks for getting drugs to the brain is to use caffeine, which will cross the blood-brain barrier, but it's not doing hydration and it's not doing the brain a lot of favors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I can say I feel much more clear. I feel better rested. I feel more clear with my brain functioning, with my speaking that I'm doing, with my creativity, and just feeling really, really good. And it's just because my body is working how it's supposed to.
That's correct. I mean, you're built out of almost 80% water. And once that water loses its charge and starts to become what we refer to as dead water, then you become very sluggish, and then all sorts of issues start to appear. And if you keep replenishing the water with a high energy form, which all the cultures in the world talk of healing waters, this is long before the internet ever came into existence. So they must be onto something. And what we found is that by doing this, you are giving the body the tools it needs to heal itself and also function. But it also, because the dioxytetrahydride stabilized form, the crystalline structure, actually works with the body to stabilize peroxide that a group of T cells make. And what this enables the body to do is fight infections efficiently. Peroxide will not kill anything quickly unless it's extremely high levels. The body doesn't do that. So the problem is the peroxide the T cells created a wound site go away before it ever does any killing of the bad guys that are trying to attack the body. Once it's mixed with our water, we've seen it in perpetuity. It stays there until it's used, and it's not enough to damage the cell, but it will kill the bacteria and the viral issues. So that's why we're seeing so many things suddenly go away on people with wounds that won't heal. We're using it in eye treatments. We're using it in many arenas. And it's just the water. It's not the water doing the problem. It's just that it stabilizes the body's work so the body can function as it was intended to.
Yeah, and I love using the wata as a very basic foundational thing when I'm working with clients, because correcting this issue in the body corrects a lot of downstream problems, whereby people have fatigue, they have brain fog, maybe they have whatever symptom that they have. uh, Correcting the body's electrical currency, improving mitochondrial functioning and the ATP energy production. That's going to correct a lot of downstream issues that people are kind of symptomatically trying to address with like a supplement or a pill or going out in the sun or whatever they're trying to do to attempt to, rectify that symptom or get rid of it. I think that using the wata is a very basic, revolutionary, foundational way to get the body working. And then whatever's left over, then you can address that by other means.
Correct. And the beauty of the product is it's an ultra pure form of water. Southwest Research's first question was, where did you get it? Because they've never seen water this pure before. But they couldn't understand its characteristics. Everything changed in its, surface tension, specific gravity, everything changed, and they were completely baffled. But it's an ultra pure form of water. You're not adding more toxins to the body to deal with a toxic problem. That's why so many of the medications may have a short-term effect of helping you, but then you suddenly then become having all sorts of other problems that you've now created. This is an ultra pure form of water.
Let's talk about hydrogen. So a lot of people are taking hydrogen supplements now and hoping to get a boost from that. But talk to us about how that maybe isn't actually the problem. It's just trying to increase hydrogen intake in the body, and if the wata adds hydrogen to the body naturally.
Well, hydrogen by itself is extremely unstable. And what we've shown is to add the second electron, and we also have the ability to go above that, to the hydrogen. So when it goes through the mitochondria, it's actually scavenging twice the energy per molecule that comes through. That's why you're seeing the boost in energy, and it also helps the mitochondria function at a much higher level. Basically, adding more hydrogen to the body, it has some effect, but not the same effect that we're having. And it's also not providing oxygen for the cells in the form of O2, which is a non-oxidizing form. If you break down a water molecule and add hydrogens and end up releasing an oxygen, it's going to kill a cell. That's oxidative stress. Mm-hmm. This is all balanced. You're not taking one part of the equation, but you're you're leaving the other side open. This is a balanced form of water where that you're utilizing the hydrogens, but you're also utilizing the oxygens.
Yeah, I've always been very skeptical of hydrogen supplements. I know they're growing in popularity, and some people see a boost from taking those, but like you said, it's kind of missing the point, and it negates the need to even take a hydrogen supplement if you're taking the wata.
Correct. I agree with you. I mean, we've seen such an increase in mitochondrial output. We've actually had clients, and I think you may have seen some of their testimonials, where we had one nurse who suffered severe mitochondria disease, been in a wheelchair for 12 years, and now is able to walk 1.5 miles.
Mm. And I know you have amazing testimonials on your site. I mean, testimonials from people with Parkinson's, with people with autism, with people like all types of issues improving with taking this wata. And it's just very basic. You're just giving your body electrons and getting it working better as a result. So really, it doesn't matter what the label or diagnosis is. When you get your body working better, you're going to see improvements in functioning.
We've seen that time and time again.
How long have you been making the water? Like what
Over
kind of
12, over 12 years.
12 years? Yeah. So you've had a lot, thousands and thousands of
Yes,
testimonials
yes,
over that time period.
that is correct. And, we don't solicit any of them. I mean, these are the patients come to us. Um, it's just amazing what they'll tell us, because a lot of these things we never envisioned when I started this whole thing. I mean, it's just amazing to see. We're doing a lot in eye healing now, because the eye is one of the fastest healing parts of the body
Hmm.
if it has the tools. And we've been, helping people regain full eyesight, and who've been blind for 12 years.
Hmm.
And no one felt the eye could regenerate, but we're showing it can be.
Oh, wow. And what are some of the ways you can use it in the eye? Can you put the drops in the eye or use the Dietary Gas itself or just drink the water internally?
Well, we do basically all three. We have medical clinics that are using the gas infused into a set of goggles with a nebulizer and some oriental meds that are, basically natural. And we're having just incredible results. That's one of our doctors in Hollywood, Florida.
Hmm.
And he's been able to deal with things that none of the eye doctors have ever been able to accomplish. We use it in spray form. We use a real fine mister. I'm not trying to promote a brand, but Sally's Beauty Supply sells what they call a 360 sprayer, which is an ultra fine mist for setting hair and makeup. And
Mm-hmm.
it's phenomenal for using the water in the eyes, because
Mm.
it actually helps, you know, with dry eye syndrome, which most people have, especially in a dry climate like where you are.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know so many people are dehydrated. I mean, that's one of the things I've talked a lot about on this show and on my website, because so many people are drinking, purified water, thinking that's enough, and the structure is damaged. They don't have enough minerals, or they're drinking reverse osmosis water. There's just always something wrong with what people are doing, and people are chronically dehydrated. I mean, that's really the number one thing you have to resolve if you plan to be healthy or want to live a long time, disease-free, medication-free.
Well, that's very true. I mean, we've shown with the military, we've been working with special ops and some of the other groups in the military. And what they've seen is that we had a group of approximately 20 special ops guys. A bunch of them were on Wata, a liter a day, and others were on 4 liters of regular water. And the ones on 4 liters a day of regular water were showing brain dehydration. The ones on just a single liter of ours were showing full brain hydration.
Hmm.
So we're seeing better than 4-to-1 uptake. Standard water takes about 2 hours for it to work its way through the body, and then the kidneys will finally dump about 80% of that. So you only get a small amount of actual hydration. We're seeing hydration virtually almost instantly. So it's all due to the molecular charge. If you have, I mean, cells are normally negatively charged, and if water's negatively charged, you've got two south poles pushing against each other. It's not going to be absorbed easily into the cell. We have a positive charge and the cell's negatively charged, they'll immediately go together.
Yeah, and maybe I was confused a little bit there earlier because I was talking about how, you know, uh, electrons, I mean, like, so when you're swimming in the ocean, you're feeding your body negative ions, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And is that similar to what's happening with the water?
To a point, yes.
Yeah.
You're harvesting electrons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing you've got to go back, if you want to go back to the very beginning, there are only two forces in all of nature. There's magnetism and electrons. Everything in the entire universe is created out of that. And the water is actually created using magnetism and electrons. And so we're using the basic tools that enabled the whole universe to be created.
And so let's talk a little bit about the effects of the water, like what someone can expect to feel once they start drinking the water. So I drank my first liter. Oh, you said to only drink maybe a couple of ounces or an ounce to 2 ounces and just see how you do. Some people are especially sensitive, and a half a liter may be too much for them. This is like a 1/2 liter bottle size. That's, you want to go slow with these things just in case. You can always increase. And so, but I just said, forget it. I'm just going to drink a whole bottle. So I drank a half a bottle. And I felt so amazing. So I felt joy. I felt excited about my life. I felt, and I was before, but I just felt very euphoric. And I felt that within a couple of hours of drinking it. And I was very stimulated. I had a hard time sleeping that night. I woke up really early, but very energized. I wasn't tired the next day. And I felt like that for about 3 or 4 days. And then it began to taper off. I'm not going to stay at that kind of euphoric state. But then it kind of began to taper off. And I just feel really good now. I just wake up feeling good mood, brain firing really well. And so is there anything else that you could explain to the listeners about what they might be experiencing after they start
Well,
drinking water?
we always suggest people start slow because many people are far more toxic than they ever could possibly realize due to environmental and work areas and other things they're exposed to. The worst thing that we've seen is when somebody consumes a liter or two the first time, they can end up with a pretty good headache that lasts maybe half hour because you've suddenly released a massive amount of toxins in your body and your body's trying to get rid of them.
Yeah.
We've never had any issues other than having people to start slow. So we always tell them, start slow. If you're fine with it, then keep moving up. Most of our people that have been with us for years and years now consume somewhere between a liter and a half a day. If it's, here in the heat, it's not, Florida is not like New England, it's much hotter here. We see a liter a day seems to be a pretty good, arena to try to get to. It works wonderful in coffees and teas because the water will emulsify the oils, and that's where the flavor is. So you can, but on the alcohol side, I do say use extreme caution. Don't mix it with alcohol because it will transport it instantly into the blood. But it's a great detox.
That actually might be a great tip for some people. If some people,
if you want to take somebody down, you can. It's scotch and water. You can.
Oh, here, honey.
Right. One drink's all it's going to take.
Yeah. So be careful. Whatever you put the water in, it potentiates. And I've been actually taking the water with my supplements so that they absorb better, they absorb faster, and work better.
We did a medical study at the University of Florida on vitamin and mineral absorption. We saw 7 to 10 times greater uptake into the cells and especially with iron, which was very interesting for women because women have a hard time absorbing enough iron, the younger women. We were seeing a 10-fold uptake in 3.5 minutes with no inflammation of the small intestine. Wow. Which was unheard of. And so young women, especially those who are pregnant, we've seen phenomenal results because they don't have morning sickness issues because their body can't handle the toxins. Their body's able to remove the toxins, and we're seeing much quicker fetal growth. Normally they give birth to a child 3 weeks early, and it's already like a month ahead of development because the child is living in an environment now where it's not swimming in toxins. So now it can properly develop. You're keeping the body, the young one properly hydrated, and it's transporting far more nutrients and minerals into it so it can develop quicker.
And I think that the uses for water is just incredible when you think in terms of all of the different health issues that heavy metals and toxins cause on the body, how they wreak havoc on our hormones, our digestion, our blood sugar issues, brain function. Every single different bodily function and metabolic function of the body is being negatively impacted by the heavy load of toxins that we ingest every day in our environment. And I think this is such an amazing way to assist the body and, in effect, successfully address so many different issues like blood sugar issues, fertility issues, hormonal issues in a simple, effective way, very inexpensive, with no side effects.
Very true. I mean, when you mentioned the brain, we've done a lot with PTSD in the military, and it's hydrating the brain and getting the 5 endocrine glands back under control. And it's just incredible to see the changes.
Yeah, so talk to us about some of your research. So you keep mentioning the military. I know that you're called into hospitals at times to help with patients. Doctors call you up. So what have you discovered during your research of, discovering Wata, developing Wata, and what are some of the research that has been done with the Wata?
Well, what we've learned is in wound healing is incredibly fast with this because the cells have proper communication. We're seeing virtually no scarring, even in severe burn cases. And the water also is probably one of the most powerful anti-inflammatories out there. So it also has a tendency to block pain when one burns themselves or serious wounds. We're able to deal with a lot of the low-grade bacterial infections, which antibiotics will not touch, because what's happening is the body itself is able to take those out once it stabilizes its own peroxide. So we've had a lot of cases where kidneys were not functioning properly, both in humans and animals. We've done a lot with racehorses. And these are multi-million-dollar horses that had serious issues, and the vets all said time to put them down, and we said no, let's help them, and very short order we have them back on the track.
It's really interesting how there's so many of the cutting edge techniques that I've discovered that I've noticed that with champion racehorses, they're already being used, have been used for years. Like they're on the cutting edge of health that somehow tapers over into, working for humans. But I think it's just interesting how I keep discovering that, including with the Wata.
Yes. And also we're working with some of the top athletes out there now. Later we'll hopefully be able to expose some of the names, but these are some of the elite of the elite that have discovered what we're doing, and what they're seeing is just incredible. It enhances their ability to see things. It gives you a better 3D perception because the eye now has enough electrons to process and get a better full image of what's happening on the field when one's playing. The reaction time's faster. Their lactic buildup's virtually non-existent. I mean, we've done it with cyclists. We've trained them here in Florida and gone to Denver and crushed everybody, which is impossible. We now have skydivers who are jumping from over 20,000 feet, 22,000 feet. Now they're trying to go to 31,000 without oxygen, just drinking Wata, which is everyone in the medical world will tell you it's impossible to survive at 21,000 feet without oxygen. But they're just consuming Wata. A liter will last them almost 3 hours at 21,000 feet.
That's interesting you mentioned that, because one of the issues a lot of people have is lack of oxygen in their body. There's less oxygen in the atmosphere, especially if they live at higher elevation. So can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, I mean, what we've seen, we've done a lot of work with the athletes out in Denver. I've done projects out in New Mexico, and it'll be up 7,000, 8,000 feet on a mountain. And living here in Florida, that should be a problem for me. As long as I'm consuming at least a liter or a liter and a half a day or more, I'm fine. I don't notice anything. Everyone else is gasping for air, and I'm climbing up and down the mountain, doing all sorts of geologic work, and they're going, how can you do this? You're 70 something years old, and you're leaving us all behind. And I said, well, but the water is providing the oxygen. You actually are absorbing more through the water you're drinking at high altitude than the air you're breathing through your lungs. And that's why when you asked earlier about taking hydrogen pills, you're not adding any oxygen to the body, which is very critical. The cells need that.
So let's talk about the Dietary Gas. So that was the first discovery. I assume you created a machine called the WIT, which produces the gas, which you can, I actually right now I have my brother's wife. She has stage 4 lung cancer, and I have her not nebulizing the Dietary Gas, but I have her nebulizing the Wata to,
Hmm.
very quickly get the gas that's in the water infused into the water into her body. But there are clinical applications that are, the Dietary Gas is being used in hospital settings. People can breathe in the gas. Can you talk a little about that and how you discovered it?
Well, basically, the gas is the primary, everything is based on.
Yeah,
Everything we do. Uh, what I was looking for, the reason Wata came into this was how to transport the gas.
yeah.
And then I realized that it took me several years to understand and get it done properly, was to infuse it back into an ultra pure form of water. But the gas machines, the WIT machines, are being used for lung regeneration, all sorts of different lung issues. Um, I can't say that too much on that, but basically what our doctors are seeing is that lungs are actually regenerating and repairing themselves. And basically on some of the medical conferences we've gone to, which is quite a few, what they're saying is on the cancer cells that once you raise the electronegativity of a cell and provide it with sufficient oxygen, the cancer cells can't live there.
Hmm.
It's not that we're poisoning anybody, it's just we've created an environment they can't live in
Yeah.
and reproduce in. And the breathing machines are phenomenal for that aspect because they're completely charging. And one of the issues in the wet applications, like the lungs and the kidneys, they don't like to reheal themselves because they can't generate a good redox signal. The redox signal is what calls in stem cells and T cells to the wound site. By using the gas in the lungs and then also consuming it, having it travel through the kidneys, we're seeing kidneys basically turn around in several months to where my neighbor's cat, the doctor said the cat's not going to live long because the kidneys are failing. Well, I put the cat on the Wata straight, and within 2 weeks, I had to build a shield around the litter box because the cat was peeing all the way over the top of the litter box. I said, I don't see bad kidneys here, my friend.
It's funny because my friend Sterling Hill, she is a genetics expert and she owns mthfrsupport.com. And she told me she was, talked to her frequently, and she told me she was using the Wata for her dogs. She's like 5, 6 dogs, and they're her little babies. And she started telling me all the different amazing effects, side effects she was seeing in her dog's health improve. And she finally convinced me to get the Wata and introduce me to you guys. I wish I'd known about it for 6 months. I wish I'd started drinking it earlier. But yeah, it's interesting all the many applications that you can have for the Wata and the various improvements and results and benefits that you see with people drinking it and pets.
But the pets react quicker because their body mass is much less than ours.
Mm-hmm.
So when they start tanking up on the Wata, my cat has twice a day, she drinks a pile of Wata. And you better be ready. She'll come flying through the living room, go over the top of the couch, go behind it, up the wall, back out, flying across the hall, down the hall, skids into the doors and bangs around and then comes flying back down the hall and shoots outside. But it just absolutely supercharges her.
That's how I felt when I first started drinking the Wata. I totally identify with that. And so let's talk a little bit about the redox signaling that you just
Mm-hmm.
mentioned. So tell us what exactly the redox signaling is, how that goes haywire in people, and how the Wata helps to correct it.
Well, redox signal is what the body uses to notify the stem cells and T cells that there's a problem. It's kind of like in the old days, a lot of the people wouldn't remember it, but you had the fire alarm on the corner and you had a little red box and you broke the glass and you rang it. Now the fire department knows there's a problem on 4th and Main. The problem is if somebody cuts the wires, then nobody knows. So now the stem cells and T cells don't come to the wound site. So by amplifying that signal, now the fire department thinks it's a 5-alarm fire when it's only a 1-alarm fire. So they send a whole bunch of guys and the work gets done very quickly. So by amplifying the redox signaling, which is all matter of transporting of information through the use of electrons. And once you amp that up, now you get a whole crew showing up to work at your house, not one or two people, which may drag the job out for months on end. Now you've got an army there, and it gets done in a couple of days. So the redox signaling is very important, and especially in areas where you don't have proper communication due to dry skin or a burn, especially, and things like that. That's why we actually immerse them and keep them wet. We do wound healing completely wet. Some of the horses, we actually use a rubber boot and we fill it. Humans, we use a latex glove or a nitrile glove and fill it with water and change it every day. And the healing is just incredible.
Yeah, and what you're saying here basically is the water, the electrons in the water, the oxygen that we're getting help to restore cellular communication, because that's really what disease is. It's the body's ability to communicate with various places breaks down for many different reasons. And then the mitochondria break down for many different reasons, aren't able to produce the energy that we need that runs this whole process. And so the water just reverses that, and very, very simply and elegantly, increases energy production, restores cellular communication. That's it.
You're right on the money. That's it's the old saying, and your batteries run low, you're pretty well toast.
And this is why people can't get better. This is why there's so many people that are sick, and they try all these different physical solutions. They try supplements, they try medications, they try different protocols, and spinning their wheels. They can't get better because they're missing this very, very simple foundational thing, which is restoring cellular communication, increasing mitochondrial energy production, and hydration. And doctors, and even functional medical doctors, just not really addressing this very effectively or at all. And that's why so many sick people don't get better.
Well, the other thing too is it goes back into what your work's been in detoxification. I often wonder, when you have a disease which is caused from toxification, they then add more toxins to you trying to treat it. We already have a toxin problem. Now you're added all these other toxins to it, and then you wonder why the patient doesn't get better. Where's common sense in this picture?
Yeah. And it's millions, tens of millions of Americans are on 5 or more medications. My father was on 10 medications when he died. And so I 100% agree with you. You can't add more toxins, which medications are toxic to the liver, to your body and expect a miracle long term. And so let's talk a little bit about, where can people get the water?
Well, either you can go to Amazon and type in AquaNew, or you can go to AquaNew.com, which is our main website that we have it. We have numerous stores in different, you can go on our website, AquaNew.com, and we have different areas in different states here on the East Coast that carry it. We'd love to have somebody like you carry it out there in your neck of the woods. Because it would make it worth us, the while, because once we start shipping truckloads to you, the price of shipping goes way down.
Yeah.
The problem is when you ship individually, the UPS and FedEx love you because they're going to hit you over the head on shipping.
Yes. And the shipping, it is a bit expensive, but when you think about this in relation to all those many, many benefits that you get with this water, or how much money you're spending on supplements every month, the cost is really low. And then the cost of a bottle of water is very similar to the cost of just a regular bottle of water. It's just, you really can't find a better value than this water and the many, many benefits it can impart on your body and in your health.
We've worked our tails off to keep the price low. Many of our doctors that have used waters from Japan and other places were paying $100 a liter for wound healing, and they did nothing. And they were saying to me, I should be selling this for at least $100 a liter. And I said, well, nobody could afford it. I said, that's not what our goal is. Our goal is to help as many people as possible.
So what led you to discover the water and the Dietary Gas? What was the genesis of that?
Well, the genesis, when I first went into it, I was working in the oil fields in Alaska. I was up in Prudhoe Bay for many years. I was there for almost 25 years. Jimmy Carter had, with the oil embargoes and everything going on, we had heard of some people trying to run engines on water. And that's a whole nother story I could get into later with you sometime. But what I realized was that, first of all, they didn't understand what they were doing, and if you were going to run it on, you'd had to create a different compound from water. And so I started working on that originally, and then I realized the oil companies weren't going to be my best friend. So what we realized very quickly was that this gas had virtually limitless uses. Everything from enabling us to travel in deep space and survive on different planets. I mean, we could survive on the moon and Mars with the technology we have, because we can use it to do anything from welding to providing oxygen to breathe, providing, healthy plants. We can grow things with it, all off just a couple of solar panels. So it started off as an energy thing, trying to find another source of energy, which will eventually come down the road once the powers that be will, either work with us or let it happen. But that's not something that's concentrated on right now. Our main concentration is on the human issues of health and well-being in the animals, and also, possibly growing. We've been doing hydroponics. We grow extremely, healthy plants which have higher nutrient levels. Even the fiber becomes almost 90% digestible, which is unheard of. You could actually grow grass for cows where they're not walking around as methane machines. So there's a lot of areas, but it started off on an energy side, and then I realized very quickly that there were other arenas that this had opened up for me, and that I felt the best one to get into was the medical side, the human health side.
And can you talk about some of the ways to use the water? So what's the minimum they should drink per day, the maximum, or any other tips you can give people?
We've never seen a maximum per se. It depends on how hot it is and how hot physical work you're actually doing. We see that, a liter a day seems to be a pretty good number. If I'm out bush hogging and doing a lot of work on the ranch here, I'll consume probably 3 or 4 liters a day or more. I don't have any side effects from it. Basically, a lot of people use it in coffees and teas because it absorbs the oils and it gives you a much more beneficial. They use it in cooking. Your foods will cook quicker, they're healthier. We've also seen it using it in, eye care, skin care. We've helped a lot of young kids with serious acne and using just a facial steamer and using the water in it. And normally, poor parents have spent $10, $12, $15,000 on meds and nothing worked. And 4 or 5 days, we have them with clear skin, and it's all done with the use of the water and a steamer.
That had not occurred to me to do that. I'm going to try that.
Yeah, I mean, the cheapest one and one of the best ones is Conair. They have a facial steamer. It's $23. I mean, it's nothing, and it's phenomenal because you do it. You can either do just the nasals if you have a head cold or nasal issues. You can breathe it just that way, or you can do the entire face. And we recommend that on a lot of people if they start to have any queasiness from being around people and they're starting to get the sniffles, to use it, and it seems to knock it right out. But it also is phenomenal for the skin, because once you warm up the water, it has a far greater penetration into the skin, and it goes in and expands the collagen. So collagen is where the wrinkles come from. It's not from the skin. The skin is just an overlayment.
Yeah.
The collagen is the foundation. So once you start to expand the collagen, then magically the wrinkles start to disappear.
Yes. And so are there any precautions as far as storing the water? Is there an ideal way to store it, like say in the refrigerator?
Uh, we've had, keeping it even at 70 to 80 degrees for 6 to 8 years, we've had no loss of anything. You definitely don't want to freeze it because the gas itself won't freeze. So
Hmm.
you can force it out of the water in structure. Once the water molecule freezes, it will force a pocket of gas to appear. And that's about the only way you can get it out of there.
Okay. And then also, once you open a bottle, is
There's
the
no,
gas escaping, or
no,
do you have to worry
no,
about that at all? No.
no,
Okay.
not at all. It's a molecular bond. It's a plasma state of, it's a crystalline structure that's bonded. It will not come out. The only way to get it out is to freeze the two different components. The gas itself, we haven't been able to freeze it either in liquid nitrogen. That's 320 degrees below zero. We couldn't get it to freeze. Pressurization, we've had the gas over 3,000 pounds pressure, and it stays there indefinitely. So it's a very stable gas, and water's its closest cousin, so it will bond if we know how to do it. We have to go in with nanostructures to get it to bond back in, but once it's bonded, it's completely stable.
Hmm. And is there any other tips you can give the listeners about how to drink it or best use practices?
My feeling is feel free to play with it. That's where we get a lot of people will call up and they tell us something they've done with the water, and we all kind of look at each other and go, well, I never thought of that one. It's something that's not going to harm you. That's the beauty of it. It's non-toxic, and even using it on, serious wounds and burns, it's going to promote the healing instantly and prevent infection. So
I had a really interesting story from your wife. We were talking, and she was telling me about a dentist that had the highest levels of mercury that
mhm.
their doctor had ever seen, and that he started drinking the water, and his mercury levels just plummeted
They're gone.
because, yeah, that he was just able to detox it out drinking the water. I don't know
He's
what else
he
he was doing, but
he had every year he would go and spend a small fortune on chelation, and
mm,
he said it would drop the numbers for maybe a couple weeks, and then they were right back up. And so we put him on, it's about a liter and a half a day for 3 months, and then he did have, I guess it was 2 or 3 treatments, probably 2 hours on the breathing machine. And when he went in, um, they took the hair, the blood, and the tissue samples looking for mercury. And you have to go in overnight, and then the next morning the lab sends the results up, and the lead doctor immediately looked at the paperwork, folded up, and threw it in the trash, and said the lab made a mistake. So he had to stay another day, and they did another set of samples. And the next day he comes in and did the same thing. And the doctor's going, I don't understand what's going on here, because we can't find any mercury in your body, in your hair, your bones, your tissue, or anywhere. And he says, yeah, what's new about that? And he said, well, that's impossible. He said, well, someday you'll learn how to do it.
yeah. Well, I love how when people go to doctors or go to their practitioner, and if the practitioners never seen something, they say that's not possible, or they give them like, oh, you have 6 months to live, or I think people have to be really aware when they're talking to someone that this person has a limited knowledge set. They don't know everything. And there's so many things out there. There's so many people like yourself doing incredible things, incredible discoveries, and have, approaching the body from very different mindset into like, how can we resolve this? Not like this limited kind of mindset that's limited by people's skill set or toolboxes. I think you have to be aware of that when you're talking to any practitioner or medical doctor.
Very true. I mean, we've had 2 cases fairly recently on serious cases of gangrene where they wanted to amputate. One was a whole leg and the other one was a foot. And the doctors actually witnessed the application of the water in the hospital on on the leg. And this was on a Wednesday, and Monday, they were going to amputate this young kid's leg. And when his mother actually did the procedures, because the doctors refused, And on Monday, when they unwrapped the leg, there was no inflammation, no gangrene, and the leg was already healing. So they repaired the broken bones. He broke the bone in 14 places between the knee and the ankle on an ATV accident. But he's fine. He's climbing ladders now. He's doing fine. And the doctor's comment was nice in one way, but upsetting in another. He said, this is nothing short of a miracle, but he wasn't interested in what we did.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find that I hear that a lot with clients is they have these amazing recoveries. They're feeling better or what have you, what's going on with them. And the doctor's just not interested at all.
No, not at all.
Curious,
Nope.
It's just amazing to me. I don't know. So that there's curious people that want to further their knowledge, that want to learn more, curious about the world, furthering their profession, helping people in doing so. And there's people that are just not. They learn their skill set and that's it. They just not interested in anything else.
Just selling, I mean, they're schooled and that's all they've learned. Their education stopped when they got out of medical school.
Yeah.
And that may have been 10 years ago. So, that's the sad thing.
Or 30, 30 years ago. So let's talk a little bit about EMF. So EMF damages the body in many, many different ways. And I think this is probably one of the biggest threats to people's health in the coming years with the launching of 5G, the rolling out of 5G, and also the rolling out of 5G satellites, which there are thousands planned over the next few years to be launched into the atmosphere. So what effect is EMF having on us, and how can the Wata protect from that?
Well, one of the interesting things, we worked with a group of, they brought forward to the United States the GVD camera, the gas visual discharge cameras, which were a Russian design that were conceived in the 1800s, but Tesla hadn't lived and the modern computer hadn't been built. So this poor Russian scientist couldn't build what he wanted. He could envision it, but he couldn't build it. It was about 2005 that it finally came into existence. And they're able to test waters from all over the world. And one of the things they noticed was that if you took a bottle of water from Florida and went to New York, it completely showed something different. You moved it to California, it was different again. And they were all being affected by EMF, and they were being affected by the gravitational issues of the world and different, strengths and different fields that were affecting it. But what they found was if they put a bottle of water next to a computer or a cell phone, or especially a mainframe computer, it completely tore the water up. I mean, it was just absolutely evil. But what they did is they took a liter of our water and placed it on top of a mainframe computer, and came back a week later and tested it and hadn't changed one iota. And they had traveled the world with our water, and they buy it in large quantities themselves. That's all they drink. There was no effect. Our water tested exactly the same here as it does in Tokyo or California or anywhere else. It has the exact same signature. So what we're seeing is that it's kind of like Scotty and the Enterprise. If you have a stronger force field than the one around you, you're going to defend yourself. And what the water is, because it is electrically charged and carrying a massive amount of energy, it's able to defend itself from the weak forces that are coming in. 5G is a form of microwave, and that's why you're going to see some serious issues.
Yeah, people cooked, essentially.
Well, you're seeing it already on the 4G. Look at the European studies. Don't look at ours. Look at the European studies, and you'll see all the brain issues that even, just showing a toddler playing with a phone on one side of his head, being right-handed or left-handed, they'll show the brain development is dramatically different on one side of the head versus the other. And that's with 4. So now the 5G is a whole different animal.
Yeah.
So
yeah, much, much, much stronger. And that's really interesting. I didn't know about the EMF impacting your water, and just having your water near your computer can negatively impact it. And then you're going to have much less benefits for potentially hydration from that dead water to begin with.
Correct.
Yeah, it's interesting. But drinking the water. So can you explain exactly how drinking the water can help reverse the negative effects of EMF that it has on our body?
Well, basically, it's affecting the water in the body. It's like you take microwave water, you put water in a microwave it to a boil and let it cool and put it on a plant, it'll kill it because you basically damaged the water that bad. Basically, what we're trying to do is to replenish the body's own basic water within the cells with our water, which is a high energy form, which then helps the body to defend itself. So, it takes time. You'll see a bigger effect initially because as you continually detoxify, the first hit's the strongest. And then, because now when you're going back into the cell, it's at a lower rate, but you're cutting it by 50%, then you cut the remaining by 50%, you keep cutting it down. But the first time, there's a massive detox that's happening. And, that we've seen, also everything from Roundup, people who were used Roundup were having serious neurological issues, and we've been able to help them with the use of the water and also the breathing machines.
Yeah, so talk about the breathing machines. So this is a machine. I know that you're licensing the machines, I'm assuming, to doctors or clinics and hospitals. So where can people find these machines to be able to use them for therapeutically?
Well, I mean, one of the doctors that's probably the most aggressive is here in Florida, in Hollywood, Florida. It's Dr. Walter Campbell, Campbell. You can go on YouTube and type in Dr. Walter Buck Campbell in Hollywood, Florida, and he'll pop up. And he's been using it for detox, eye healing, neurological issues, Parkinson's, you name it, he's been working with it. And he has a great number of videos in there that he's staying extremely busy now. And because people are seeing what can be done. And we have a different, it'd be another program, but we have different understanding as to what Parkinson's is and Alzheimer's and a lot of these other things, and what's the driving force behind it and how to actually deal with it. And the water and the gas have dramatic effects on those. We've shown that every time. Same with PTSD. There's all sorts of things going on in the brain that we feel that many of the doctors don't really understand yet, and how to reverse these and get them back on a stable keel where they're not trying to commit suicide and becoming non-productive in society because they become hermits because they're hurting so bad internally. So, a lot of this we're gaining ground on. Hopefully we'll put some more funding towards some of the more medical studies that we keep moving forward to. And, that's all expensive. People don't realize how expensive medical studies are.
Yeah. And have you conducted any studies, or have you mentioned some universities?
Yes.
We're doing some studies.
We've done studies at the University of Florida. We are now in the process of doing hydrogels. That's a whole nother project that we're working on. That's been gone through. We've got colostomy products out that we work with one of the local manufacturers who I helped in teaching him how to stabilize dioxides and peroxides. So he sells to the manufacturers. He doesn't sell to the public. But he has products now that are like none others, where we have an odor eliminator for colostomy products, where it's not a perfume. This completely eliminates the odor in the bag. You can actually, as tough as it sounds, you can put your nose over the bag and there's no smell. So what it's done is give the people who have colostomy bags the ability to go back in public, because the bag won't vent suddenly, and then everybody wondered what happened here.
Yeah. I know I had a friend that had colon cancer that had part of his colon removed and had a colostomy bag, and it's just a terrible
right.
like a stigma that he didn't want to go out very much because of that.
Correct, but now you would never know they had a colostomy bag. There's zero smell. So that's, we're working in arenas like that with some of the medical manufacturers to be able to make new products that are not laced with heavy metals and things to carry. The water is probably one of the best little red wagons for carrying vitamins and minerals and things into the body. And it doesn't leave all the garbage behind. I mean, many of these vaccines were using aluminum and mercury.
Yeah.
And you wonder why you suddenly had an autistic child. I mean,
Or brain swelling, or
you have it, right?
Death in utero, or all the other things that
Right.
doctors don't want to talk about or admit.
So what they're finding now is that the water and the gas are phenomenal carrying agents, which leave nothing but hydration behind. So it's the only pure way we've seen to get a lot of, certain times you do need a certain, something added to the cell to help it. But how you get it there is what makes the difference.
And so let's talk about this. Like, where can you get the water online, and any other info that people need to know to learn more about it?
You can type in AquaNew on Amazon or go to aquanew.com, and you'll see the store come up in both places. But also you can go to AquaNew's website, and then it'll list some of the areas in the different states that are carrying the water. We're gaining more and more people are coming up, and with Sarasota, we've got a bunch of stores. We've got some in Georgia. We've got some now people that are selling up in New York and New Hampshire area. So we're expanding out.
And any concern that it's bottled in plastic, or do you see any concern with that? Because I know that's just a question listeners will have.
No, the reason we use plastic is glass is pretty evil. Glass actually deadens products because it steals electrons. So if you store a product in glass over a long period, it deadens it. So what we found out very quickly was that it'll steal the electrons, which is what makes the water unique, and basically deaden it. This is the non-PVA medical grade plastic. It's the only thing we can store it in for long periods. You can drink it out of a glass, that's fine, but you don't want to store it in it. And so the PET 1 bottle is considered the best. It's the most recycled bottle out there. It's the easiest to recycle. So I don't feel bad about that, but it's the only thing that we can economically put it in to get it to the customer at a reasonable price.
Yeah, I think that's really, really interesting also, that I had no concept of that the glass steals electrons and deadens any water that's placed in it. And so that just speaks to that there's no perfect packing material when it comes to water or other products. There's pros and cons to every, bottle or packaging out there.
That is correct. I mean, I don't know your climate's definitely moister than ours, but when I lived in upstate New York as a young kid down from Corning Glass, we used to go down and buy these glass rods, and you take a piece of wool and you start rubbing the glass rod with it. You had a wand that you could throw about a 6-inch lightning bolt and nail somebody with, because what the glass is doing is stealing the electrons from the wool as you're stroking it. You keep charging it. And we used to have more fun zapping each other. I mean, it was an absolute loud crack when it came off the end of the glass rod. You come up behind them, poke them behind the head, and you can send them flying. But that shows you how many electrons glass is trying to steal.
Well, Robert, thank you so much for joining us on the show. This has been so interesting, so educational. I answered all of my questions and asked all of my questions regarding the water, because I've been drinking this for about 6 weeks now, I believe. And I'm just so happy that I discovered this and met you. And I wanted to just shout this to the world, just how revolutionary this water is. I think it might be one of the most important discoveries in regards to health of our times. I mean, it's that important. And I just, I love what I do, because I'm able to just impart information to people that can dramatically change their lives and get them, moving in the direction in their health that they want to be in, so they can live their life purpose. They can show up in the world how they want to be, not stuck at home and sick and bedridden and not being able to function. And there's so many people that are in that situation or going there because they aren't getting the information and the answers that they need from their medical doctors where they're seeking help. And so I really commend you, Rob, for the work that you do. So thanks so much for joining us on the show today.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. And
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll speak again.
Yes, we will. We will probably do another show soon.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Wendy.
So everyone, thanks so much for listening and tuning in to the Myers Detox podcast, where we, just give you all the tools and tips to biohack your body to dramatically improve your health and life. So thanks for tuning in. I will talk to you guys next week.